Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome, everyone. It's such a lovely turnout. I'm impressed. The heat didn't keep anyone home. We're going to keep the heat in here instead. To begin tonight's forum of the 3rd Congressional District's Democratic candidates, we are going to have some opening remarks by the chair of the 3rd Democratic Party from La Crosse, William Garcia.
Hello, everyone, and you are definitely not here to listen to me, so I'm going to make this really, really quick. But I did want to let you know that about 30 minutes ago, Derek Van Orden posted a press release about today's forum, and he said that we're going to hear from the Democratic candidates and their woke, socialist, radical agendas, which, as we all know, is Republicans speak for I can't talk about my policies so they're so bad, so I have to make something up. We have 2 astounding candidates to choose from tonight. Early voting starts in just a couple of days. So please listen carefully, make your decisions, and then after the August 11th primary, rally behind the winner and fight, 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 win, 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 because we can win this seat and we will win this seat. If you feel like if you're listening at home or you feel like you could be doing a little bit more, please reach out to your local county Democratic Party. We have strong county parties in every county in the congressional district. They are ready, willing, and able to tell you how you can help, what you can do, show you how to do anything, and we would love your help and support. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair of the Eau Claire County Democratic Party, Phil Swanhorst.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have a few opening remarks before we get going to the questions. Both candidates have been given the questions 1 hour before and ideas of the questions 1 day before, so they got an idea what's going to be coming to them. But I want the audience to realize that this is a forum. It is not a debate. A forum is a place where ideals and views are presented to you. A debate is a discussion of those ideas in which opposing arguments are put forward. This will be a forum. The forum will cover many issues tonight facing us here in the 3rd Congressional District, as well as all over our country. Therefore, my questions will be brief and the lights will be dimmed. Someone knows how to turn them back on, hopefully.
People have to be waving their arms throughout this.
The questions will be brief. The answers, hopefully, will be where the candidates feel their position on an issue is. Some of the guidelines for the forum are opening and closing remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Each answer will be limited to 2 minutes each. The timekeepers to keep track of the time for tonight are 2 University of Eau Claire, Wisconsin student college Democrats, Emma Steffen and Harry Jett. Let's hear it for them. Yeah. Thank you. Let's get that out of our blood because I'm going to ask this audience to refrain from any outburst, positive or negative, applause, booing, anything of the such during the forum. And please, no phone calls, no phone usage whatsoever during the forum. That includes texting, phone calls, videoing. I've talked to WEAU, they're live streaming this. It'll be live streamed on their TV tomorrow morning. You can go to their website. It'll be on our county party's website hours after this is over. So please don't use cell phones while in this venue. There'll be up to 15 questions if time allows. And with that, we will begin with opening remarks, and it was decided that Rebecca Cook will begin with her opening remarks. Thank you, Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. And it's great to see such a packed room here in my hometown of Eau Claire. And I'm really grateful for you all being here tonight on a 90-degree evening. I am Rebecca Cook, and I am hopeful to earn your support to become the next member of Congress here in Wisconsin 3. A little bit about my background. I grew up here on a dairy farm in Chippewa County, ran a retail business in downtown Eau Claire, and launched a nonprofit serving women starting businesses across western Wisconsin. Additionally, I waitress in a strip mall while I'm running for Congress here in Eau Claire. I've always worn multiple hats to make ends meet, which is not unlike most people in our communities. I'm running for Congress because I've lived many of the same failed policies you've had. Selling our farm because we couldn't compete with Big Ag, watching my parents, right here, struggle to afford their medicine, struggling to pay for my own health care because of rising prices. But we can fight back, and we will. In Congress, I'll pass the PRO Act to undo the work of Scott Walker and his cronies and what they did with Act 10. I'll work to expand Medicare to cover vision, dental, and hearing. I'll end these tariffs that have decimated income for our farmers, ban stock trading for members of Congress, pass a public option so that people can afford their health care. I want to end Citizens United. I'm proud to have taken the No Corporate PAC pledge in this race. I don't want to be beholden to corporations, but the people in this room and the people across this district. I also want to increase federal funding for the PFAS issues in our water, not just here in Eau Claire, but across the 3rd CD. Last cycle, as your Democratic nominee, I outperformed every Democrat on this ticket. I outperformed Harris by 9,000 votes, and I outperformed our Senator, Tammy Baldwin, by 5,000 votes. And we did that because we worked to show up in rural communities and in working class spaces that historically our party has been leaving behind, and to listen to talk about the issues that are really keeping people up at night, that they're concerned about. This fall, we have an opportunity to finish what we started, no matter who the nominee is, to defeat Derek Van Orden. I'm looking forward to telling you more about why I think I'm that person to do that and a strong fit to represent us in Congress. Thank you.
Emily.
Thank you, Phil, and thanks for hosting tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It is wonderful to see the room very full, and thank goodness for air conditioning, too, I have to say. So my name is Emily Berge, and I'm running to represent you all and your families and the rest of the folks in western and central Wisconsin in Congress. I'm coming off 8 years serving on the Eau Claire City Council, right here in Eau Claire. I was elected 3 times, twice as a district rep, and then once as city council president, because I'm sure you all know here in Eau Claire that we don't have a mayor. So this means that I served as the highest elected official in the largest city in our city in the district, our congressional district. This means I have the experience to hit the ground running on day 1, which is desperately needed right now. I'm also the past president of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. So this is a statewide organization that all municipalities, so cities and villages, belong to, except for a handful that do not belong to it. And then I'm also a therapist. So I've been doing therapy in the Chippewa Valley for about 20 years. So this experience, especially my elected experience, I have learned how to work with people across all backgrounds and to solve problems. Now, us here in Eau Claire, we have gone through a lot, right? Over the last 8 years, a pandemic, which the president told us to drink bleach, the statewide legislature that gavelled out, which left the local government to fight a worldwide pandemic. But we did it together. We also faced the closure of Sacred Heart Hospital together, that devastation with our community. And I worked with the Chamber of Commerce to bring other medical providers here to our community. And we welcomed immigrants and refugees through the backlash to our community conclusive values. But we stood strong together in unity and stood up to the hate of extremists. I'm proud to say that we're one of the fastest growing areas in the state as well, second to Madison. And we are always at the top of our net new construction, which is very important with state law because our levy limits are very correlated with such numbers. But this means that we are a successful city and we have done this together, and I'm proud to do that by your side. I'm also so proud of the support I have earned with Senator Jeff Smith, who has endorsed my campaign, as well as indivisible coalitions throughout the 3rd Congressional District. Of Citizen Action has endorsed me, and then Hmong Organizing has endorsed me as well. And now these are folks who are working and organizing with Wisconsinites who live and vote here in Wisconsin. And I'm very proud of their support. So thank you.
All right, we'll get into the questions. The first one deals with infrastructure. And Rebecca, what are your priorities for transportation infrastructure spending for the 3rd Congressional District? And how would you support the expansion of rail, bus, and/or vehicle electrification?
I want to ask folks here to raise your hand who have spent a heck of a lot of time driving back and forth from the Twin Cities. A lot of us do that, right? There have been opportunities for us to expand high-speed rail with the use of federal dollars that our governor, Scott Walker, turned down, right? We have opportunities to expand infrastructure in a way that broadens opportunities for our regional economies. And I'd support high-speed rail between here and the Twin Cities. I think it'd be a huge economic engine. When I think about the way in which we invest in infrastructure, we saw the IRA expand some incredible investments in the BIL at the federal government. Those have got to be union jobs, right? When we're working to expand infrastructure, that's got to be going hand in hand. And hiring union crews. I'm the only person in this race that's been endorsed by 13 unions. Organized labor across the state supports me. That's local unions, right? That's the AFL-CIO across the 3rd. And so I'm really grateful to have that support in this race as we work to empower workers and working class folks.
Emily?
So my role on City Council, I've worked on infrastructure a lot for the last 8 years. In fact, tonight our City Council is voting on our capital improvement plan. So this is a budget that we vote on every year, or they vote on every year, and that's happening right now on infrastructure. So it's up to local communities a lot to make sure that we have safe roads, bridges, and rail too. So I've served on the St. Croix the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Passenger Rail Committee, working to we're doing this right now. We're bringing passenger rail from this area to St. Croix County and all the way to Minnesota, actually. So this work is happening, and we are relying on federal grants right now, which I admit is on shaky ground right now because of the Trump administration. But this work is working. I've been helping to pushing this forward, and I, of course, support it because I've been working towards it. Also looking at, bus. So Eau Claire, I'm very proud to say that now students can ride free on our Eau Claire bus. And we did this when I was on council. Now this has been a huge success in the city of Eau Claire. It's amazing. And ridership has gone through the roof, which is what you want. And then electrification of vehicles. So when we redid our zoning laws not too long ago, we made sure we put that in our zoning laws to make it more easy for developers to make sure there's room to put in charging stations. So I bring this up because the federal governments can enable and encourage local governments to do this work, because it's local governments that do this work. And so it's important that the federal government work in partnership to make these things happen. You can't just pass a law and then just magically it happens or appears, or you can't even just talk about it. You have to have local governments implement it, and you need that support. And so that is how I will move this forward.
Thank you both. Next, we'll deal with healthcare. What is your plan to expand medical or prescription drug coverage to those who are uninsured and/or those who are underinsured?
Me first.
We'll go with Emily first.
I was like, we got to go back and forth.
Yes,
Yeah.
Emily.
How is it, so I'll just say that I believe that everyone deserves access to healthcare, including mental health care. I'm a licensed professional counselor. As a medical provider, I have seen the barriers to both physical health care and mental health care. Everyone deserves access to health care, full stop. And yet in this country, people go without health care. Either they can't afford it, or they live in an area that doesn't have services. I'm in favor of universal health care. We are the only country in the world, the only developed country in the world without universal health care. I support Medicare for all. That's one way of universal health care. But when people say we can't do that, yeah, if you say we can't do that, we will never get there. But everyone deserves health care, including mental health care. This should not be an argument. And right now, insurance companies are leaving people underinsured and delayed. While I was knocking doors, I've talked to someone who was on hospice, and he said that his insurance company did not allow the initial scans, which means it delayed his diagnosis, then delayed his treatment, and now he's on hospice. And that's because of insurance companies, which is about profit. I believe people over profit, and that means in healthcare. We all deserve healthcare, and we need to have government officials that believe this as well and do the work. Let's be bold. And it's crazy that that's bold, that everyone deserves healthcare, but we need to believe that and then do the work. So thank you.
Rebecca?
I'm hopeful that we win back the House majority this fall. And day one, when Democrats win back the House and we have gavels, HR 1 has got to be focused on healthcare. One of the first things that we need to do, which is what Democrats tried to do this last fall, was to expand the ACA tax credit premiums for 3 more years. I personally have canceled my health insurance because I can't afford the premium increase. I know people across this district who have seen their premiums jump from $400 to $1,800 a month. That's something that will provide immediate relief to people here in West Central Wisconsin. But that's not enough. Like, that's the immediate relief that we need to have. When we win back the House, we have to overhaul in a bigger way. Things that I believe in are expanding Medicare to cover vision, dental, and hearing, the things that deteriorate as folks age. I see a lot of seniors here in this crowd. And you should be able to age with dignity. My parents here sitting in the front row, they go down to Mexico once a year on a once-a-year trip to get their dental work done because it's cheaper to do there than it is in our own country. And I want to see our parents and grandparents really be able to age with dignity. I want to cap out-of-pocket costs on essential drugs. You shouldn't have to choose between paying your regular bills like your rent and getting groceries and getting the medicine that you need. This is in deep contrast to Derek Van Orden, who has a one-sentence healthcare policy on his website, which is to repeal and replace Obamacare, but with what? He has no plan. In addition to expanding Medicare, I want to make sure that we have a public option so that people can afford the healthcare that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next will be about the climate, and here we will start with Rebecca.
Do you want to ask the question?
Oh, I will ask the question. They're paying attention. It was a test. What legislative priorities would you support to address the threat, the very real threat, may I say, of global warming to our climate?
I think a lot about the environment like I think about politics. And I think about it in a very local way. I've spent a lot of time building relationships, in particular with our rural electric cooperatives across this district. I've met with Dairyland Power down in La Crosse, Dunn County Energy. I think the IRA offered a lot of incentives to really work to try to move some of our cooperatives and our energy companies towards more renewable options while keeping our grid reliable. And I think that's the important part, is how do we keep our grid reliable? How do we keep the lights on as we move towards more renewable options? I'm for an all of the above energy approach. I support things like small modular nuclear, which help us to get to those goals in a quicker way while weaning ourselves off of the use of fossil fuels. I'm interested in concepts like agrivoltaics, which sounds like a crazy thing as I say it out loud. But agrivoltaics is something that encourages folks to utilize solar panels and mix it within livestock grazing or growing crops. And Senator Chuck Grassley and Senator Tammy Baldwin have introduced a bipartisan bill that really works to incentivize farmers to do that. We don't need to be not in our backyard as we work to build renewable energy options. We need to bring people along in that conversation, and I think that's really important. But those are some of the things that I believe looking forward from how we increase options to, again, move away from our reliance on fossil fuels, but also work to protect ratepayers in the process and make sure that your pocketbooks are protected.
And Emily.
Thank you. So climate change is a result of burning fossil fuels, so oil, gas, coal, and we need to move away from that and do more renewable energies. And our federal policies is what incentivizes what we do. We were on the right track with the Inflation Reduction Act under the Biden administration, where there were tax credits that were being used for renewable energies. However, the Trump administration gutted most of those, if not all of those. And now we're going backwards, again, towards oil, coal, gas. And so we need to, again, I talk about, so down in Hillsborough, down in Vernon County, I visited an affordable housing site. It was a partnership between the city, actually, of Hillsborough and Habitat for Humanity. And because of these credits in the bipartisan infrastructure law, the builders were able to put on solar panels on these home units, and then so it was a win-win, right? So there's tax credit, so they could put solar panels on these affordable housing units with Habitat for Humanity, and then the people that were living there, that makes it more affordable too, right? So not only could they buy the house at a more affordable rate, but they would, live there more affordably. However, having those conversations with those folks down there, with a deadline, it was at the end of last year, so now they can't do that anymore. So here was a solution that was working, how it was intended, and the Trump administration just got rid of it because he wanted to give handouts to his, Trump or his oil buddies and his gas buddies and his coal buddies, which is why also we need money out of politics. But it's all about what are we incentivizing at the federal level? And we need to elect people that will incentivize the people and common sense solutions and center the people that live here, not the lobbyists, not the big money, lobbyists at all, or the corporations, but the people that live here, people that are doing the work. That's what we need to center so we can have these common sense solutions like we were having and Trump got rid of.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will have a question about labor unions. We will begin with Emily. How would you support the revitalization of labor unions? Should public works paid with tax dollars be done with union labor?
So I will vote for the PRO Act as well. However, it is an important distinction that the PRO Act only deals with private sector unions and not public sector unions. And so actually the Act 10 does not touch the private sector unions, only public sector unions. So yes, I will vote for the PRO Act, and because that will strengthen the NRLB and make it easier to form unions in private sector industries. In fact, there was one in Vernon County in Viroqua, the city of Viroqua, that was trying to start up, and there was union busting happening by the management, and I stood strong with those organizers. So that's what we want to make it easier to level the playing field in private, but also public sector unions. So the PRO Act does not touch what Act 10 does, because that only, with public sector, so that's teachers, county, city workers. And so what we will need is either elect good people in November that will, tackle, at the state level, tackle Act 10, or at the federal level, do special or just different legislation to tackle the public sector union. So I do believe we need to level the playing field, and if someone wants to be in a union, they should definitely be in a union, and it should be easy to organize into a union. But we need to do public sector as well as private sector, and the PRO Act only goes to the private sector. The last question, yes, public works should be, that are paid with tax dollars should be done with union labor. Yes, I think so.
Thank you, Rebecca.
First of all, I want to thank Phil, who is a retired union member from ATU and longtime bus driver here in Eau Claire. We're really grateful for your service to our community. I come from a union family. My brother is a union firefighter down in Madison. My sister works for the teachers union in Minnesota. And one of my top priorities, if I get to Congress, is to pass the PRO Act. Act 10 really decimated worker power in the state, and I see the PRO Act as an opportunity to reverse some of that. I am the only candidate in this race that's been endorsed by organized labor. 13 unions are behind my candidacy, 13 local unions across the third, and it's because I've not been an idle advocate. I've been showing up for a long time. I think a lot of people know I've been running for 5.5 years for this seat. So when Liney's Teamsters were picketing for better wages, I was there with them. When UPS Teamsters were picketing here in Eau Claire, I was there with them. Down at Gunderson, Balin, now Amplify, when those workers were picketing, I was there with them. I show up. I don't just talk the talk. I really work to walk the walk. In addition, getting the PRO Act passed, I would work to pass the Davis-Bacon Act to protect prevailing wage protections. I want to ensure that every federal project that comes to this district has a project labor agreement attached to it. I also think that we've got to protect the integrity of registered apprenticeship programs. You've probably heard a lot about apprenticeship programs. This administration has tried to undercut them with IRAPs. I've toured the Painters Apprenticeship Training Center, Ironworkers Apprenticeship Training Center, Laborers Apprenticeship Training Center to see really the integrity of what they're building and who they're turning out to be our workforce here in West Central Wisconsin and beyond, and want to protect the integrity of that work. Derek Van Orden does not support the PRO Act. Derek Van Orden supports harmful policy like right to work, and my time is up.
Thank you. Next will be about firearms, starting with Rebecca. How do we address gun safety and responsibility issues? Should we establish guidelines for purchasing guns? And what other policies would you support?
We have a long history of hunting and gamesmanship in this district. I have been myself to a deer camp or two, shot some skeet in my day. But I think it's important that we want everyone to be responsible gun owners. When I've talked with folks, whether sometimes I'm at a labor hall and folks have raised their hand and been like, are you going to take away our guns? The answer is no. Mm-hmm. I want people to be as responsible gun owners as I know those folks are in that room. And that starts by enforcing common sense gun laws, right? Things like universal background checks, which most gun owners support, right? Enforcing red flag laws. So red flag laws go up when someone is a harm to themselves or others to ensure that they can't buy firearms, so that they aren't a harm to themselves or others. Something that's a little bit overlooked, talking about universal background checks and red flag laws, is also safe storage. And I think that's something that a lot of gun owners across this district really pride themselves in working to be folks that store their firearms in a safe way. But we really need to start working across the aisle to get this done while not infringing on rights. Thank you.
Emily?
So 99.99% of gun owners in Wisconsin or the country, are very responsible. I'll just say with my background, being a licensed professional counselor, how I see gun violence is in the form of suicide. And unfortunately, using a gun is the most lethal way to commit suicide. And then in domestic abuse situations. And so this is where I want to start tackling these areas first. And it's heartbreaking to, sit with a parent who's lost their child to suicide, or to sit with a child who's lost, or sit with a parent who lost their child, sit with a child who's lost their parent to suicide. And we need to address those issues. And how I see that, and of domestic abuse too. And so it's these same red flag laws. And it's waiting periods. We look at the teenage brain, and they're so impulsive. And so when there's something that bad happens, and it could be something small with teenagers, like a breakup, or they get grounded by their parent, and they have easy access to a gun, they will use that gun, and they could, hurt themselves. This is how I've seen it happen. And so this is where waiting periods or safe storage is really important. And so we need to make sure through education, through laws, that we look at these challenges and make sure that our kids and families are safe. Also, I think, closing the gun show loophole. So right now there's two different, you could go to a gun show and there's one that you need the background checks, and there's one where you can just buy a gun with nothing. And so we need to make sure that we close all the loopholes, so then make sure that people, again, have those waiting periods, go through the right background checks when they get a gun, and then make sure it's securely locked up so it doesn't get in the hands of people that are, feeling suicidal or homicidal again as well. So these are just common sense things. Again, most gun owners are very responsible, and they want these solutions too.
Very good. We will start with Emily on the next topic of the economy. With the increasing consolidation of large corporations, small businesses and workers are finding it more and more difficult to compete. Do we need new antitrust and/or anti-monopoly laws to keep our economy fair?
Well, Yes, but before I just want to say that this comes up a lot, especially when I'm talking to farming families and this consolidation of big ag. It's not even the farm itself, but it's the fertilizer companies and the seed companies and everything throughout the farming economy. And so, yes, we do, like, some people just want to have a small farm or a small dairy, and that should be okay. Our federal policies should allow that to happen. If they only want, a herd of 10 cows to milk, like that they should be able to provide for their families. It shouldn't matter what size of farm you have in order to provide for your families. And so these corporate farms that are like decimating other small farms is a real problem. So yes, we first, I think, need to start with enforcing our current antitrust laws. And so we need to have these watchdog agencies with teeth. So it's one thing to have rules and laws and ordinances, but the other thing is we need to enforce these things. And right now, our politicians, again, are being bought by corporations. Our president is being bought by corporations and lobbyists, so he can look the other day when there's mergers in front of him. So we need to get money out of politics. We need to have an ethics watchdog, and we need to have, the antitrust. You need to put teeth in that as well. And start there. And if we can't do that, then that doesn't solve the problem, then new laws, but really let's just focus on what we have and enforce that.
Thank you. Rebecca?
This is a cornerstone of my campaign. I talk a lot about the way that I grew up. I grew up on a dairy farm here just north of town in Eau Claire. We had to sell our cattle because of the low price of milk and competition with larger dairies. We experienced that sort of consolidation head on. It was sort of like go big or go home. And that's what so many people have really felt in this district. And we need members of Congress that are really working to address that head on, to enforce antitrust laws, not just in agriculture, but I'll underscore that in that we have 4 main meat processors in this country, right? I ran a small business here in downtown Eau Claire, Red's Mercantile, that worked to support small makers and sold Made in America goods, but was squeezed because of the Amazons of the world. I see some other small business owners in here in Eau Claire. And so we've got to work to enforce antitrust law across the board, whether that's in agriculture, whether that's the way that impacts our small town and Main Street businesses. I want to take out corporations on that are price gouging consumers, not just at the grocery store, but also at the gas pump. I think this war in Iran has been really detrimental to folks across this district. Folks are making tough decisions to be able to afford their groceries, afford their gas, pay their rent or mortgage, and have any sort of money left over for any sort of summer vacation. I'm proud to have taken the No Corporate PAC pledge. I don't want to be beholden to corporations. I think that's what so many people lack in DC right now, is a spine to respond to these things, because that's who they're beholden to. That's who Derek Van Orden's beholden to. He hasn't taken any sort of corporate PAC pledge. You know that he's making deals as a part of the House Ag Committee with Big Ag, and we need something different.
Thank you very much. And now we will start again with Rebecca on LGBTQ+. With the LGBTQ+ community facing increasing attacks from all over, what will you do in Congress to support them and protect their rights?
I want to start by talking about something in the last forum and really address it head on. I misspoke in the last forum in Platteville about conversion therapy. I do not support conversion therapy whatsoever. And I want to make that very, very clear that I support our LGBTQ neighbors. And I want to underscore how important that I think it is to pass the Equality Act and further enshrine those rights into federal law. And want to denounce, I think, the hateful rhetoric that we've really seen from this administration in such a deep way. And so that's where I stand on that. And just wanted to underscore that because I feel like there's been some confusion.
Thank you. Emily?
When Trump was elected in 2024, I had a full day of clients the next day already scheduled. But I see a lot of LGBTQ folks in my practice and a lot of young people, and people are really scared, right after he was elected. people continue to be scared, and the policies that are coming down, and the rhetoric and the policies are attacking our LGBTQ families, couples, folks, kids, people are really, they're fearful, and I validate that. It's for good reason. They are coming after these communities. So I am proud to lead and to organize a ban on conversion therapy here in Eau Claire. That was one of the first things I did when I was elected to city council. In fact, we were the third city here in Eau Claire, the city of Eau Claire was the third city in the state of Wisconsin to ban conversion therapy. So I voted to ban conversion therapy, and I would vote again to ban conversion therapy at the federal level. I do not believe it's up to local control. It needs to be banned at the federal level because it's a horrific and traumatizing practice that therapists will do to harm. So conversion therapy is to try to change the sexual orientation, often with young people and kids and teenagers. And it's devastating to our community. So also, I just believe in civil rights for all. It doesn't matter what you look like, who you love, your background. Everyone deserves access to healthcare, including gender-affirming care. Everyone deserves access to housing, no matter who you love or who's living with you. Everyone deserves access to healthcare, and I said that already, but all these civil rights, housing, that's the other one. Everyone deserves access to housing. So that's what it comes down to, is civil rights for everyone. The right, they try to get us into these big conversations and they try to distract us with these social issues, but I am not going to play political football with people.
All right, thank you. And now, Emily, we will start with you on technology. With the expanding role technology plays in our lives, should Congress have a role in the regulation of new technologies such as social media, artificial intelligence, and others? And how would you expand access to broadband here in the 3rd Congressional District?
Mm-hmm. So as I'm traveling throughout the 19 counties over the last, since April, I've been going everywhere, small, medium, large, over the last 15, 16 months. And it seems like throughout my campaign, data centers have been more and more of a topic again and again. And people just really feel helpless. And they feel angry that it seems like these big data centers are just being plopped down their backyard without any say from local communities. And they're angry about it, like I said. And so I think we do, and it comes down to AI as well. AI and data centers are very much married. And in fact, when I talk to young people, I talk to a lot of young people. If you follow my social media and see all the people that come to my events, a lot of young people come to my events. But what their top 3 issues are housing, healthcare, AI. And so we need regulation for AI and data centers. And I support a meaningful moratorium on hyperscale data centers, because we just need to slow everything down and to have these regulations, again, on AI and on data centers. Because there should not be environmental impacts, during our water or taking up our water. The local communities should not be paying the price for these tech giants to come in and make their profits. And so these are what the local communities, and right now they're taking advantage of the small communities because they don't have zoning laws yet. And so we need to make sure that these communities are protected and these local people are connected. So I'm not saying no data centers ever, but we do need a meaningful moratorium on these hyperscale data centers until we can pass regulations on AI and data centers, hyperscale data centers. This is what the people want. When you go out and listen to what they're saying, this is what they want. They are demanding transparency, accountability, and protections. And it's our job as federal legislators to do that.
Okay, and then Rebecca.
I think that social media is a cancer to our society and would encourage everybody to go out and touch grass. Honestly, after this forum, if you've seen Derek Van Orden, the amount that he tweets and is online, we all need Derek Van Orden to go out and touch grass. Truly. But I think as it relates to social media, AI, the other question that was a part of this is how do we expand broadband across the 3rd CD? we've really got to focus on creating some guardrails. And I think that I know that a lot of people are attuned to what's been happening over in Menominee with the data center that was trying to be put in place over there. I think the thing that's really been lacking is transparency. And that's something that I think that our local governments have to demand. And as federal office holders, we have to support those local governments in being able to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of when it comes in particular to data centers. And so, one of the conversations that I've been having too around data centers, I'm very much in favor of local control, but having guardrails around that. I think when we talk about AI, I go back a lot to thinking about NAFTA and thinking about the way that was presented to people across this country. And then so many jobs were shipped to Mexico and other places with cheap foreign labor, right? I'm concerned about the impact that AI is going to have on Americans' livelihoods and people in this district. And I think we have to keep a close watch on that as technology continues to move forward.
Thank you very much. And next, we'll start with Rebecca on education. And the question is, what role should the federal government play in expanding access to high-quality K-12 education and beyond? Should the federal government also play a role in student debt relief?
I am a proud product of Eau Claire Public Schools. I am a Sherman Star, I am a DeLong Knight, I am a North Husky, and I'm very proud of that. And I believe in fully funding and supporting our public schools. On my literature, which you can find outside of this room, one of my top priorities is to end voucher schools. I think that we need to invest more in public education. I've spent a lot of time calling around to local municipal leaders on school board, on city council, on county board. I have the endorsement of 50 local electeds across this district. And one of the main things that I heard from so many people was there, especially school board members, having to go to referendum, right? Every single frickin' year. We deserve better, right? That's something that really happens at the state level. And I know there's state legislators here in the room tonight that are advocating for that public school funding to make sure that our schools have the resources that they need. At the federal level, the things that I can advocate for here in West Central Wisconsin is protecting the Department of Education, what this administration has worked to try to dismantle. I want to make sure that we invest in early childhood education, which comes from the federal level. I want to make sure we invest in special education, which comes from the federal level. And that's important to me. And also mental health resources in the classroom. That's something else that comes from the federal level. A lot of it here in the state of Wisconsin and across the country comes at the state level. But those are the things that I can advocate for as a member of Congress to make sure that our schools are funded, and especially in our rural communities, that they stay open.
Thank you, Emily.
I just want to briefly touch on the infrastructure of broadband in the third CD. And I think to do that, like what we did with ARPA, which Eau Claire County did a good job of supplying and installing broadband in the Eau Claire County. And that was because of ARPA money, which was federal money directly to local communities to do the work. So just want to, because that is important. So education, I went to public school as well, from kindergarten to all the way to my master's degree, actually, all at UW South for my undergraduate and graduate degree. My kids went to school here, 4K all the way up to, my youngest just graduated from North High School. So obviously I've seen the good work of teachers and our education staff. And just through on council even, I work with local union leaders, the school board, our county officials and our city officials to organize and bring forward legislation to City Council, which did pass unanimously, of how much money of our tax dollars goes to private school vouchers. So that transparency is very important because I believe that public dollars should go to public schools. Now, this is a state issue. However, at the federal level, President Trump is trying to make this a national issue, and I will do everything I can to prevent that from happening. Because we do not need, again, public dollars need to go to public schools. As for access to high quality K through 12 education and beyond. Yes, the Department of Education focuses on special education. I believe that every child deserves an education, no matter their ability, and that is up to the Department of Education to make that happen. Also, we need to be affordable. It needs to be affordable. Colleges, tech schools, apprenticeships, whatever you want to do with your life, there should be a way for you to do that. And then it should be, so our federal government should invest or match states' investment into our post-high school schooling or apprenticeships. Yes, so time's up.
Thank you. Our dynamic timekeepers on the spot.
Good job.
Next one, jail. We'll start with Emily. What are your views on the overcrowding in prisons, inequity in sentencing, and what changes would you propose?
I remember sitting on council and just talking about shared revenue, and it's so frustrating because just their shared revenue is not keeping up with our demands and inflation. I won't go down that road, but I asked our finance director, I'm like, well, where does this money go from the state? Like, where is it going? It's so frustrating. And he's like, well, to the state, prison system. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's so frustrating that all that money goes into locking people up and setting up people's success in local communities. So I am a big proponent of treatment courts. We have a great program here in Eau Claire. So this is a mental health court or AODA, alcohol and drug court. And I think that is a wonderful opportunity for people to look at the whole person, and again, as a counselor, so not everyone has had the best childhood, and there are people who have gone through really bad things as kids, and they've gone through trauma, which then causes them to make not good decisions later on in life. But if they go through counseling, if we can address that, because what we want to do is reduce the people that keep going into jails and prisons. And so if we treat the root cause of hey, what's going on? Is it AODA? Is it mental health? Let's help them. Let's help them live a good life. We can do that as a government. We don't just have to lock them up or lock them up, let them out, and then lock them up again. So, when people are released here locally, they're released with nothing. How are you supposed to build a good life and be successful if you're released with nothing? There needs to be people there to help. And I know there's been nonprofits doing that work. Dr. Susan Wolfgram has actually done a lot of work around that, but we need more than that. This is where it matters who we elect. And the federal government can do these treatment courts. It's somewhat similar to what we're doing at the state level, but we can do so much more to actually treat and make sure that people are successful in their life, which makes us safer.
And Rebecca.
I just want to underscore that I do not support abolishing or defunding the police, as many on the right side of the aisle might accuse me of doing. I support our law enforcement members, and I have met with a number of county sheriffs across this district and want to make sure that our community stays safe. I think that said, I do want to make sure that we are mindful of funding, both in funding of our police and of mental health services. I'm also a big believer in treatment courts. I think that it directly addresses, to Emily's point, people being repeat offenders. That's called recidivism, and ensuring that people aren't continuing to come back in and out of our county jail here in Eau Claire. And I know there's a number of judges that do that, and I'd like to see that expanded. That is a local program, not necessarily a federal program, but I think it is something that has proven to be really strong here in the city of Eau Claire.
Okay, Rebecca, we will start with you on marijuana. What are your views on medical or recreational use of marijuana legalization?
Let's just legalize it. I think there's just been this patchwork approach that's been taken across the country. I think at the federal level, if we legalize it, it would, take care of a lot of headaches that we've seen. We have states all around us that are benefiting off the legalization, and we're losing all of that income here in the state of Wisconsin because others are benefiting from it. And there's things that we can do for the profit that we receive and the taxes from that to better our communities. And I'm really supportive of that. And I think what marijuana can do for folks that are dealing with PTSD, that are going through cancer treatment, I think there's a lot of benefits to doing that. But also recreationally. I don't think we need to, people are going to Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota in alarming rates to go get it. So we might as well legalize it federally.
Emily?
Yeah, we need to legalize marijuana. As a counselor, I've worked a lot with a lot of different people over the last 20 years, a lot of people who struggle with alcohol, but I've seen way more problems with alcohol use and abuse than I do with marijuana. There is some issues with marijuana, but alcohol is way, way more prevalent. I think that we legalize it and we regulate it like alcohol. I think that's the common sense thing to do. I think the one that's standing in the way, at least here in Wisconsin, is the alcohol lobby. Again, why we need to get money out of politics. They are standing in the way of legalizing marijuana. I mean, it's pretty obvious we're the only state, in the Midwest or around us that still does not have it. I have always, medical versus recreational, as a counselor, I always thought, no, just go full legalization, because I don't want to because then what's going to happen if it's medical, people will show up in your office and they'll probably play the game. We don't need to do that. If you want to use marijuana, use it responsibly, and, we'll tax it and then we'll regulate it. No big deal. And so that's what we need to do. I'll also say that the Congress slipped in their budget bill last year, I think in November, that made small amounts of not marijuana, but lacking the term hemp, to so it's going to take away those drinks, the cannabis drinks that people, like. And again, it's the alcohol lobbyists that got in the way and, got in the ears of Congress people and said to close that. It was technically a loophole, I guess, but close that loophole in the Farm Bill. And so now, as of November, we won't have those products. But worse is that small businesses are going to close. So these smoke shops that a lot of people use, I visited one up in Chippewa too, and this is a family business, and they're going to be shut down in November unless Congress acts.
Thank you. We will start with Emily on a topic that's been in the news, unfortunately, lately. On my way over here today, I hate to comment, but a third immigrant was just killed. But the question on immigrants is how would you address the erosion of the rights of our immigration population? Emily.
There's so much to say, especially with that recent news. I will first say that we need to just redo our whole immigration system. I mean, our immigration system is supposed to be, and it is, a civil issue. It should be worked through the courts. We should be funding, our court system, our judges, our attorneys, and make sure that people, get the papers that they need. Right now, people are trying to do the right thing. They have reached out to me to share these stories that they filled out the right paperwork, and now they haven't heard anything from our government. And so now they're illegal or they're undocumented. They are doing everything that they can. People are trying to do the right thing, and our government is making it harder and harder. And they're doing it by sending these mass agents into our local communities and killing people. We saw that here this winter in January and February, what was going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and it was over here in over here in Eau Claire too. The fear that I saw that happen, I have very good relationships with our local immigrant communities, and the fear that I saw in their communities, it does not make our communities safer. Our local police do not want this happening. Law enforcement needs, the way they do their work best is by having trust and relationships with their local communities. This goes the opposite way. And talk about, just the rights, our Constitution says everyone deserves due process. You can't just you're not supposed to just get picked up because of the color of your skin or if you have an accent or not. This is what's causing the fear in our communities. People are now scared to go to the hospital, to go to go to schools. School's out, but when all this was going on this winter, like parents couldn't bring their kids to school. Like, what kind of country are we? But you know what gave me hope during that time is that even though our country, our government was attacking our communities, our neighbors stood up for each other.
Thank you. And Rebecca.
We have seen, obviously, a tremendous overreach of ICE in this administration. We saw that earlier this year and continue to see that. I've called for the resignation of Kristi Noem, which we saw happen, called for masks off. This is not how we work to make people feel welcome in our communities. People want our borders to be safe and secure, and we want people to contribute to our economies here in West Central Wisconsin. I've talked to a lot of folks that employ a lot of immigrant workers, whether that's in our agricultural industry or a lot of folks know down in Arcadia, Pilgrim's Chicken and Ashley Furniture. We want those folks that are contributing to our economies to have a pathway to citizenship. And for too long, both parties have played partisan politics with what that pathway looks like. Last cycle, when I was running, Democrats brought to the House floor, Democrats and Republicans, it was a bipartisan bill brought to the House floor that Trump made sure to kill, right? Because he wanted to campaign on immigration. We can't play partisan politics with this anymore. I support the Dignity Act, which is a bipartisan piece of legislation that I think would work to solve some of the issues that we're seeing right now. But we need people to come together and work in a bipartisan way to actually get this done.
Thank you. And Rebecca, we'll start with you about voting rights. How would you address the attacks to our voting rights that are occurring in our country?
When Democrats win the House back this fall, and we will, one of the first pieces of legislation I'd like to see Democrats pass is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need to make it easier for folks to be able to participate in our democracy. One thing that I'm really concerned about, even before we win back the House this fall, is voter intimidation and what that looks like at the polls. And a lot of the racial profiling that we're going to probably be seeing this fall. One of the things that our campaign is really working to do is educating people on all the ways in which they can vote, right? We have a lot of early voting that's going to be happening soon here in this campaign for our primary. Many of you might have vote by mail ballots in hand. We want to make sure that it's easier for folks to be able to participate. There's a lot of folks that might work on election day. And so giving other opportunities for people to be able to cast their vote and have their voices heard, I think is critically important. And making sure that we can protect the integrity of our elections and work to empower our town clerks, our clerks across the third to be able to do their jobs, which I trust in them to do.
Thank you, Emily.
I get this question a lot about voting rights. And yes, of course, voting is the basis of our country, of our democracy, and it's important that we protect it. We do need federal legislation to protect voting rights and to expand voting rights. I believe it should be easy for Americans to vote. We should have automatic voter registration like many states already do. We need to get rid of gerrymandering, and we do that by having independent redistricting. Politicians should not be drawing the maps. Politicians should not get to choose their voters. Voters should get to choose their politicians. I ran for assembly, and it was a very gerrymandered district, so I wasn't expected to win. I ran to bring out Democrats and to vote for Biden and Ron Kind. And I still overperformed Biden by 7 points, but that's not my point. My point is that that when they redrew the maps the next year, they drew a line on the Chippewa and Eau Claire County line, drew a line around my house, and then kept going. So they put me in Rob Summerfield's district. So how is that even, that's crazy. That should not happen, and yet that happens all the time. That's what happens when politicians pick their voters. So we have to stop that. We do that by divorcing politicians and redistricting. And there should not be mid-decade redistricting. It should happen at the census and make it fair for everyone. I know that we're in this war back and forth, but these are just good policies that we need to enact at the federal level. Let's see. Oh, and ranked choice voting. Like, I was thinking about our governor. We have lots of great people to vote for governor. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had ranked choice voting, you know, where we can choose first, second, third, fourth? And then I think we would really get our primary winner would really truly represent what the electorate wants in Wisconsin. So there's lots of things we can do. We just have to elect people that are willing to put it forward and vote for it.
Thank you very much. Emily, we'll start with you about national defense. Is the national defense budget of the United States of America, is it too big, too small, and why?
I choose too big. That's my choice. Yeah, and Trump asked for a 44% increase over last year. So that means he wants $1.5 trillion more for his Department of War. This is not what makes our country strong, by bombing other countries. You know, we look at it with Iran, how we started a war in Iran, and how we bombed a school in Iran. So school children died because of us. That is horrific, and it's because Trump made that decision. So what I think makes the United States strong is the people that live here. Making sure that everyone has access to health care, housing, a clean planet. That's what makes us strong. That makes sure everyone has good job and economic security. That people can age with dignity and not be scared that their Social Security won't keep up with, you know, property taxes. That's what makes our country strong. And that's what we need to be investing in. Not investing in bombing other countries for oil, not investing in kidnapping leaders overnight, just, I don't even know what that was about, oil. You know, like, we need to stop that. We need to put us first, not war first, not killing other people first. We need to put the needs of Americans first. And that's why I'm running for Congress.
Thank you. And now about space. We'll go to Rebecca.
I didn't answer the question, so I still need to answer that.
We're rushing you right along here. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay, about the national defense budget of the U.S., too big or too small, and why? I think probably what's on the hearts and minds of a lot of people in this room tonight is the war in Iran, which is a war that none of us voted for. Whether you voted for Donald Trump or whether you voted for Kamala Harris, that was not the promise made by any of those candidates. And I'm talking to a lot of Trump voters across the 3rd Congressional District that feel betrayed, that feel betrayed by the vote that they took when they thought they were voting for an America First agenda. And I think that Trump has failed on that promise. He's failed on the ceasefire that he's tried to broker. And the people that are paying the price are the folks in this room. The people that are paying the price are the folks that are out there growing our food. We've seen a tremendous increase in fertilizer prices and diesel prices for our farmers. We've seen a tremendous increase in gas prices just for the everyday consumer. I really believe in operating in a diplomacy first sort of perspective and making sure that we can enforce economic sanctions before we put boots on the ground. And that's where I'm at. I think that there's a time for brute force, but not in this moment.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll go to that space topic. Do you support NASA and its goal to put a man on Mars?
Well, we were the first country to put a man on the moon. I kind of love that this is a question in our forum. I would support the U.S. Getting a man on Mars. I think about, people like Elon Musk, who has, tampered a little bit in our elections here in Wisconsin, and want to make sure there's fair competition and that NASA and our government is really leading the way as we look forward to explorations in space.
Thank you. And Emily.
Yes, I also was pleasantly surprised to see this question. I'm like, oh, that's fun. And what kind of space, like emotional space of soap. That's good. I'll answer it all. But yes, I support NASA and its goal to put a man or a woman on Mars. I think that's a great goal to have. I think our space program is also a good opportunity to work collaboratively with other countries too. We already do that already. But I think we can do that more, and we can work together in exploring space. I do think it's important to, again, a public dollar should go to the public good. It should go to, a government organization like NASA. Elon Musk's SpaceX has already gotten $15.5 billion from the US government. And so that's going to him, which is how he's become, our first trillionaire, where we need to, when we invest in space exploration or research, which is so important because that's how we keep an eye on climate change and our weather patterns to protect people here on Earth. It's really important research. And so that's why it needs to be publicly funded too, so we can keep access to it. If it goes to a private company, if it goes to Elon Musk, what the heck is he going to do with it, right? He'll probably do something with AI and, who knows. But it's important that it stays within the common good and that we do that by, investing in NASA and the space exploration.
All right, that's all 15 of the prepared questions. We will continue on with some closing remarks from each of the two candidates, starting with Emily as the closing remarks.
Okay, I went fast. Well, my closing remarks, first I'll say that, we have a primary in August 11th, and I will support, if the voters choose Rebecca Cook, I will support Rebecca Cook. The priority is that, we flip the seat from red to blue and to hold Donald Trump and his administration accountable. And the way I see this race, this primary, this is Western and Central Wisconsin versus DC. So I'm going to tell you all just a little story here. So when I was thinking of running for Congress and I was being encouraged locally by folks to run for Congress, and they said that, well, you need to call up people in DC. I was like, okay. And I remember, I had them this on the phone right here. And they told me, no, we don't want a primary. They said that we have our candidate. And I remember arguing with them. I'm like, no, it's up to the voters. And they're like, no. She has the most money. We want her. We don't want a primary. That's when I knew that this problem that we're in as a country is bigger than Derek Van Orden, is bigger than Trump. We need a primary. And when they told me that they didn't want a primary, that's when I knew I had to run. That was my deciding factor. And I understand, as a counselor, I understand where that came from the Democratic establishment. Because they were scared, right? It was right after Trump was reelected. It was just crazy times going on. But I've learned, actually working on council and as a counselor, we don't make the best decisions out of fear. And I understand that they wanted it easy, right? They wanted one person they can support, make it easy. But when is doing the right thing easy? When is fighting for democracy easy? And you all deserve a voice. They try to take it away from you. People behind closed doors, states away, they didn't want you to have a voice or a choice. And that's why I'm running. That is why I'm running. It's not even about me. It's about you all. You deserve a fighter. I feel the pressure every single day of them wanting me to drop. But I am not dropping because you deserve a voice. On August 11th, the whole point of a primary is so party bosses don't pick, right, the Democratic nominee. The 3rd Congressional District is a swing district in a swing state. Everyone in this room, we have so much power. And it's up to you to take that power. The DC insiders and establishment tried to take it away, but we're not going to let them.
Okay, thank you. And closing remarks from Rebecca Cook.
I want to thank Phil Swanhorst and the Eau Claire County Dems and all the folks across the 3rd CD who have put together 4 different candidate forums in Eau Claire, in Platteville, in Stevens Point, and La Crosse to give people a real opportunity about who is best suited to be able to defeat Derek Van Orden. You heard me talk tonight about the issues that I've been focused on, issues that I've been focused on for 5.5 years. If anything, I am tenacious. I outperformed every Democrat on this ticket in 2024, including Harris by 9,000 votes and our Senator Tammy Baldwin by 5,000 votes. And I did it because I worked to show up in rural communities and working class spaces. I did the work at county fairs, at dairy breakfasts, at meet and greets. I've done events for many, many years. This is my 12th forum that I'm before you here tonight. I think you might know a little bit about what I'm about. I want to heal our broken healthcare system. I want to support our small businesses on Main Street. I want to bolster our agricultural economy. I want to combat corruption at all levels. And I want to reimagine what it looks like to build an American dream that we can actually grasp and feel. Derek Van Orden does not provide that. It's not enough to just say the far right and people like Derek Van Orden aren't doing a good job. We have to offer solutions for our communities' greatest problems. I, of course, would support Emily in winning the primary. We have to unify as Democrats, no matter who of us comes out of it, because of what's at stake in this country right now. It's not just about winning this seat. It is about flipping this seat to win back the House majority, to have an actual check on this administration and their worst instincts. If you are frustrated with Donald Trump and you are frustrated with establishment Democrats in DC, we have to win the House back to do something different. I didn't just show up this election cycle. I've been doing the work over time. I've received the endorsement and support of over 50 local electeds across this district. I've also received coalitional support from farmers, educators, healthcare workers, people that don't necessarily have a title before or after their name. And I'm proud of that. I've also received the endorsement from folks like Senator Tammy Baldwin, who I think we all care a hell of a lot about in this room and the things that she's done and delivered for this state. And so I might have some establishment support this time, but I think you'll remember when I was in this room in the beginning when I did not. I have worked very, very hard to build the support of people across 19 counties. And I know that no matter the outcome of this election in 27 days, that we will defeat Derek Van Orden in November. Thank you.
Thank you. And I need to personally give my appreciation to having the candidates keep me online on how the questions have been asked. But how about we all show our appreciation to the candidates for showing their stands on the issue? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just have a few closing comments before we depart this evening. We got plenty of time. I'm a few minutes ahead. That'll give you time to interact with the individual candidates on your own. I planned this, the fourth forum that was mentioned, and the last time we'll probably see them so wonderfully together like this. Exactly 4 weeks from today is Election Day. And exactly 4 weeks from 8 o'clock tonight, the polls will have closed. And at that time, do not have a feeling of regret. A regret that you didn't vote. Do not have a feeling of regret that you did not get others to vote. Or a regret that you didn't campaign for a candidate just a little bit more. Or regret that you could have given just a few more dollars to one of your favorite candidates. Do not have any regrets 4 weeks from tonight. Exercise your rights to help elect the candidates that line with your philosophy. And thank God we live in America where the power of the cast vote is still the most powerful tool we have. Thank you all so very much for coming. Thank you.